The Mello TV Evening News at 8 is brought to you by the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Coronavirus is in Jamaica, and I know you feel scared and worried. But you can't let COVID-19 divide us. Coronavirus infects all kinds of people. It doesn't discriminate. So why should you? When someone coughs or sneezes or shows signs of the virus, tell them to call 888-1-LOVE immediately. And remember, stay 3 feet away, but don't attack or disrespect them, because we're all in this thing together. Come on, Jamaica, cut the hate and don't discriminate. Let us stand together and fight COVID-19 as one family, one nation.
Tonight, 71-year-old George Williams, the mentally ill man who spent 50 years in prison without a trial, is now a free man.
We are very excited that George got his day in court and justice was so swift.
Minister of National Security Dr. Horace Chang announces that all states of public emergencies implemented in Jamaica will expire on July 25. Still tonight, Minister of Local Government warns that beaches and rivers could be once again closed if users refuse to practice social distancing and other measures to limit the spread of COVID-19 on the island. And W.HO'S Director General warns that the COVID-19 pandemic is yet to peak in the Americas.
Good evening. 71-year-old George Williams, the mentally ill man who spent 50 years in prison without a trial, is a free man after criminal charges against him were dropped earlier today. More on this story with Colleen May.
Criminal charges against George Williams, the mentally ill man who spent 50 years in prison without a trial, have been dropped when he appeared in the St. Catherine Parish Court earlier today. The attorney hired by the civil rights group Stand Up for Jamaica to represent Williams, Isaac Buchanan, said this is what he calls swift justice.
Well, this is certainly vindication for Mr. Williams, freedom for Mr. Williams, and so certainly for Stand Up Jamaica, myself, we are very excited that George got his day in court and justice was so swift. My concern simply was the fact that Mr. Williams, as it is now, there were allegations against Mr. Williams. The matter was not ventilated because he never had his day in court and there was not a trial. And so as far as the defense is concerned, he is a free man and the presumption of innocence stays in relation to him. Right now we are reviewing other cases and we are going to ensure that we do all that we're supposed to do.
Consultant psychologist Dr. Godfrey Walcott explained that everyone agrees that the place for Mr. Williams is at home with family.
I think one of the misconceptions we have about persons with mental illness is that their functional state is permanent and that they cannot get better. So Williams has been on medication and is consistently being treated through the correctional services, so I must applaud him for that. And certainly that his mental facets have improved since 1970 when he was incarcerated in a psychotic state. And he has shown significant improvement. He does have some persistent psychotic symptoms, but they do not interfere with his ability to either engage or understand what's going on. And I see that's one of the issues that we had to deal with. But the reality is that what we all agree on is that the best place for Mr. Williams is for him to be at home with his relatives and for his treatment to be provided in the least restrictive environment. And I think that's what happened here today, and I think that's a wonderful thing.
Dr. Walcott further explained Mr. Williams' psychotic condition.
Evaluations in the past are not significant. It's the most recent evaluation that is important because, as you can imagine, a person's mental state changes with treatment, with state of illness, even with age. And so you have to do mental status evaluations on a consistent basis. And I saw him, as I stated in the court, I saw him after he was given his monthly medication. And so one of the possible variables is that being close to the time when he needs his medication, his mental state may fluctuate. And when I had discussions about it, I recognized that this is not a clear-cut case because he does have persistent psychotic symptoms, which we both identified and we were both very clear on, but that his ability to function may vary depending on administration of treatment and certainly on how he's doing at the particular time. But he got his medication just before I saw him. I'm not quite sure if the evaluation Dr. O did was before he got his medication. I suspect it was, because he would have been the one to order the medication. So those may be variables and factors. But I don't think that's at this point relevant. I think the clear issue is that this man is to be treated in the least restrictive environment. He has served more than enough years in prison, even for the crime that he's alleged to have committed. And certainly, I think today is a wonderful day for the judicial system in doing the right thing.
Member of Williams' family who were present at the St. Catherine Parish Court expressed their excitement at the news.
I'm feeling happy, happy, happy. Words, I cannot explain how I'm feeling at this time. You know, it's just one person is missing at this time, and his mother. Because when she was alive, she would try to do everything to get her son out of prison. But I know at this time, the angels are surrounding her with this good news that George is finally free out of prison after 50 years. Saturday he was attacked in prison. I heard that he was kicked by a younger inmate in his ribs, and he have a black and blue under his right eye. And you know, it was so sad because for 50 years in prison, and this never happened until a couple days before he'll be walked free home. So I'm so glad he made it alive out of prison. He didn't die like how Noel Chambers died. And the little that he have left, we'll treat him the best that we can and let him enjoy the rest of life that he have with us.
Looking for this day for a very, very long time. I've been working on such case from about 2004. Today I can say, thank the Lord, my brother is out. And boy, the journey will be hard, but I'm prepared for it.
Reporting for Mello TV News, I'm Colleen May.
Still making news tonight, Minister of National Security Dr. Horace Chang announced that all states of public emergencies implemented in Jamaica will expire on July 25. Dr. Chang made the announcement while seeking an extension of the states of public emergencies recently declared in sections of Kingston. The Prime Minister told the House during Tuesday's sitting that overall, the SOEs have had a very significant national impact, pointing out that when they were first implemented between 2017 and 2018, murders were reduced, resulting in 350 lives being saved. In news from St. James, detectives assigned to the Coral Gardens police station arrested and charged a man with wounding with intent and illegal possession of firearm and ammunition, stemming from an incident that occurred in the community of Flanker on June 7. The accused has been identified as 24-year-old Caldane Spence, otherwise called Brookfoot of Mackenzie Drive, also in Flanker. Reports from the police coming into our news center are that at about 8:35 p.m., a male resident of the community was walking along the roadway in Seaview Heights when Spence brandished a handgun and opened fire at him. The victim managed to escape despite being shot, and he was assisted to the hospital where he was treated. A report was later made to the police, and following an investigation, Spence was arrested and charged. In news from Manchester, the Manchester police say they have now laid criminal charges against a man in relation to the fatal stabbing of his brother in Bryanland District, Spalding, last Thursday. Now, the accused has been identified as 24-year-old Condevi Brown, otherwise called Dane, also of Bryanland District. Reports from the Spalding police coming into our news center are that at about 9:45 p.m., Brown and his brother, 28-year-old Damian Petgrave, a recording artist, were among a group of persons at a shop when an altercation developed between them. It is further reported that a knife was brought into play and allegedly used by Brown to stab his own brother, who collapsed and died on the spot. Brown was arrested and subsequently charged following an investigation by the police. In news from the capital, 2 illegal firearms, including a .38 revolver and a Remington shotgun, along with 10 rounds of ammunition, were seized during a joint operation conducted at 100 Lane in Kingston 19 on Monday. Investigators say no one was arrested in connection with the seizure. However, investigations are ongoing. Reports from the Constant Spring Police are that between the hours of 3 a.m. and 9 a.m., members of the Joint Security Forces carried out an operation in the area, which led to a premises being searched. The revolver was found on the rooftop of a house. Now, a further search of the area led to the discovery of the shotgun that was also found on the rooftop of an adjoining house. Further checks led to the discovery of the ammunition found hidden in a bag of sand at an unfinished dwelling. In news from Hanover, the Hanover police have arrested and charged 2 teenaged boys after they reportedly broke into a church in DS community in the parish on Sunday and allegedly stole sound equipment. The teens, who have been charged with sacrilege, have been identified as 19-year-old Jawan Watson, otherwise called Tuggy, and 18-year-old Dehomarco Buchanan, otherwise called Messi, both of DS addresses. Reports are that at about 2:30 p.m., church operators returned to the building and discovered that burglars had entered through a window and stolen speaker boxes valued at approximately $74,000. The robbery was reported to the police, and following an investigation, the teens were held with the stolen equipment and subsequently arrested. Still making news tonight, Chairman of the Police Federation, Sergeant Petray Rowe, is calling for a monument to honor police officers who have been killed in the line of duty, as well as those who have given exemplary service to the country.
Our colleagues who were killed in recent time has given cause for us to once again call for the government to pay homage to our colleagues who make the ultimate sacrifice in support of law and order in this country and in advancing a safer Jamaica for all its citizens. A police officer take a oath to serve, protect and reassure the people of Jamaica and are killed for it, and therefore we believe that the government should honor them in a tangible way. Yesterday, the Police Federation went to Parliament to appeal to the consciousness of our parliamentarians. We want to say thanks for the members of Parliament who acknowledge our presence and engage us and express a willingness to support our cause. The Prime Minister made commitments to us, and he made an announcement in Parliament to support the erection of a monument.
Sergeant Rowe, who made reference to Detective Corporal Dane Biggs and Constable Ricardo Hilton, the 2 police officers fatally shot in an attack in Spanish Town, insists that the government should mount a monument in no less a place than the National Heroes Park in honor of the 2 police officers.
The Police Federation believes that it cannot be business as usual. Once our colleagues are killed, the government should go to action. The government should observe moments of silence in Parliament, to make tributes from the floor of Parliament, to instruct that the national flags be lowered, and of course send the police officers home with the honor in which they deserve. We believe that their memory should be immortalized in a monument to be placed in no less a place than the National Heroes Park.
Still making news tonight, WHO's Director General warns that the COVID-19 pandemic is yet to peak in the Americas. More on this story with Brianna Chambers.
The World Health Organization Director General Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus warned earlier today that the coronavirus pandemic has yet to peak in the Americas, as the global infections were likely to hit 10 million within a week.
In the first month of this outbreak, less than 10,000 cases were reported to WHO. In the last month, almost 4 million cases have been reported. We expect to reach a total of 10 million cases within the next week. This is a sober reminder that even as we continue research into vaccines and therapeutics, we have an urgent responsibility to do everything we can with the tools we have now to suppress transmission and save lives.
The World Health Organization said the length and height of peaks would be determined by government actions. Dr. Ghebreyesus also warned that at the current rate of new cases, a shortage of concentrators, devices that purify oxygen to help critically ill patients, was looming.
One of the most effective ways of saving lives is providing oxygen to patients who need it. WHO estimates that at the current rate of about 1 million new cases a week, the world needs about 620,000 cubic meters of oxygen a day, which is about 88,000 large cylinders. However, many countries are now experiencing difficulties in obtaining oxygen concentrators. 80% of the market is owned by just few companies, and demand is currently outstripping supply. WHO and the UN partners are working with manufacturers across the world through a variety of private sector networks to buy oxygen concentrators for countries that need them most.
Reporting for Mello TV News, I'm Brianna Chambers.
In other news, Minister of Local Government Desmond McKenzie is warning persons who go to the beach and who utilize rivers that these facilities could be once again closed if users refuse to practice social distancing and other gazetted orders put in place to limit the spread of COVID-19 on the island. The minister, who was speaking in the House of Representatives yesterday, outlined that the reopening of beaches on June 7 was conditional upon Jamaicans abiding by the established protocols and orders. These include the wearing of masks, social distancing of at least 6 feet apart excepting for persons from the same group, and no parties or playing of games. McKenzie told the House that there were widespread breaches of the protocols and as such, there will be increased monitoring of activities at all beaches and rivers as of this upcoming weekend. Still tonight, Shadow Minister of Technology Julian Robinson is calling on the government to immediately remove the General Consumption Tax, GCT, on tablets and computer devices to make them more affordable to parents ahead of the reopening of schools. Mr. Robinson pointed out that many students who do not have computers or tablets at home nor appropriate internet access have simply been left behind. He argued that solutions must be found now to assist the thousands of Jamaican students who have no access to the internet in this time of COVID-19 school closures. Mr. Robinson further stated that come September, as schools face a new normal, schools will be required to do a combination of in-school and at-home online learning. In other news, Minister of Finance Dr. Nigel Clarke has announced that at 12.6%, Jamaica has recorded its lowest poverty rate in 10 years, as is highlighted in the latest edition of the Jamaica Survey of Living Conditions, JSLC. Dr. Clarke says the JSLC, which is a joint publication of the Statistical Institute of Jamaica and the Planning Institute of Jamaica, Statin collects the data and the PIOJ does the analysis. It reflects the living standards of Jamaican households and shows that the 12.6% poverty rate recorded in 2018 is a decline of 6.7 percentage points when compared to 2017. He says this is the lowest poverty rate recorded in over 10 years and represents a 40% fall in the rate of poverty in 2018 when compared to 2015. This decline, he states, is attributed to an increase in real gross domestic products, an increase in employment, in the proportion of households in the lower quintile that receive remittances, as well as the slowing in the rate of inflation. And those were the stories making news. I'll return with a recap. We'll now take a break and then join Christopher Scott with sports.
Coronavirus is in Jamaica, and I know you feel scared and worried. But you can't let COVID-19 divide us. Coronavirus infects all kinds of people. It doesn't discriminate. So why should you? When someone coughs or sneezes or shows signs of the virus, tell them to call 888-1-LOVE immediately. And remember, stay 3 feet away, but don't attack or disrespect them, because we're all in this thing together. Come on, Jamaica, cut the hate and don't discriminate. Let us stand together and fight COVID-19 as as one family, one nation.